Good evening, friends. Today I plan to screen a video which was recorded in 1966. This is the period when Christie allowed for the first time that his talks could be recorded. So there are 8 videos, each of about half an hour duration. And the first one is, Where Are We Going? And the series is known as The Real Revolution. You can see Krishnaji looks very young in these videos. So give me a minute and I'll share the screen as soon as possible. Are you able to see it?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Is it possible to totally bring about a mutation in what? And to go into that, to go into this question of thinking about a total revolution in what is, one must have an extraordinary sense of awareness. You want to be aware what it means. To be aware of the trees, the blue sky through the trees, those hills beyond.
The speaker is Krishnamurti. He is a man who cannot be placed in a simple category like philosopher or religious leader. He is, however, one of the more challenging and creative men of our time. Born in South India in 1897 and educated in England, he has followed a singular and original path of thought free of factionalism and dogma. This is the first of 8 half-hour programs, and the first time that Krishnamurti has allowed his talks and private conversations to be filmed. The principal settings are the Oak Grove in Ojai, California, and the Thatcher School in the Ojai Valley. Ideas explored in this series range from what Krishnamurti calls the present crisis in consciousness to an examination of war, violence, love, pleasure and pain, the aging of the body, and death.
We were saying how very important it is to bring about in the human mind a radical revolution. The crisis, and there are always crises in the world, especially now, it seems to me, is a crisis in consciousness. A crisis that cannot anymore accept the old norms, the old patterns, the ancient traditions, a particular way of life, whether it is the American way or the European way or the Asiatic way. And considering what the world is now, with all the misery, conflict, destructive brutality, aggression, tremendous advancement in technology, and so on. It seems to me, though man has cultivated the external world and has more or less mastered it, inwardly, he's still as he was. great deal of animal in him, is still brutal, violent, aggressive, acquisitive, competitive, and he has built a society along these lines. What do you think is happening to the whole American people? With the automation, with electronic brains, with, you know what I mean? The whole setup. What is happening and where are they going? You understand?
I think an increasing number of them are beginning to ask themselves the question whether or not there may be alternative forms of human behavior, because they have.
And what do they do? Because by then, after asking questions and all the rest of it, they're almost finished. They're ready for the grave. And in Europe, the phenomenon there is the same as here. More or less. The production is more perhaps than
In Germany.
Germany. And Russia is now doing the same. So take all these parts, put them together. China, Japan, Asia, India, then America, China. Where is it all moving? What we are concerned with is the understanding of the whole process of life, with all its complexity, with its aggressions and miseries, with its sorrows and confusions and agonies. And to understand this vast field of life, which is a constant movement, one must not only hear the words, but also go beyond the words. Because words, the explanations are not the facts. But most of us are caught in words. And one must be free of the word, the symbol, the idea, the conclusion. Then one can look. Then one can listen. And that act of listening is really a miracle. Perhaps it's the greatest miracle. When one can listen totally without any defense, without any barrier. Neither agreeing nor disagreeing. This doesn't mean the mind is open. On the contrary, the mind is extraordinarily alert. I hope when one is listening to this talk or to the various other talks that are coming, one hears a lot of words. And hearing many words is not listening. It's like a noise among the leaves, soon passes away. When we hear, we either accept or reject, or we translate what we hear according to our knowledge, our background, or we compare what is being said to what is already known, or we oppose one idea by another. All these characteristics of hearing denies the act of listening. The act of listening is entirely different. When one listens, there is no comparison. There is no acceptance or rejection. The quality of listening is attention. And when you attend totally, your whole mind, with your heart, with your nerves, with your eyes and ears completely in that state of attention. There is the act of listening. And that act of listening puts away anything that is not true. When you give your whole attention to something, that is when you are completely listening. You listen to the totality of the thing. When you attend, there is no borders of inattention. When you so intensely listen, you're listening to the birds, to the wind, to the breeze among the leaves. You listen to the slightest whisper that's found. So in the same way, when one listens, that very act of listening brings about a total attention in which you see the totality and the whole significance and structure of what is being said. When you say, I can't, you are blocked yourself. Not by blocking this. Look, sir, if I say there is no God, I'm blocked myself, haven't I? Or if I say there is God, I've blocked myself. But if I say I really don't know, let's find out. Then I have the energy to go into it. Right? Now, so don't let's say yes or no. Don't let's take sides. Now, how would you see the totality of life? You know, get a grasp of feeling, a touch of it, a smell of it. You have no time. That's the problem, of course. That's what I said. That's what I said at the beginning. I mean, if I take time, you know, it'd be impossible. Follow it up step by step. You have approached this problem with the habitual tools. You have eliminated those tools. Not because you are prejudiced. But you see that they won't answer. Now, when you have eliminated them because they do not answer, your mind is sharpened. You are eliminated. Right? What significance is hope and faith to live? I hope you won't think me harsh if I say there is no significance at all. We've had hope. We've had faith. Faith in church, faith in politics, faith in leaders, faith in gurus. Because we've wanted to achieve a state of bliss, of happiness, and so on. And hope has nourished this faith. And when one observes through history, through our life, all that hope and faith have no meaning at all. But what is important is what we are, actually what we are. not what we think we are or what we think we should be, but actually what is. If we know how to look at what is, that will bring about a tremendous transformation. Would you say there are or even there's something new stirring? Or the same old pattern being repeated?
So it will be the same one.
Say in California, you live in California. Is the climate being so marvelous here? Is it productive of some new state of human being, new human? We are the product of the society in which we live, the experience, the knowledge, and all the rest of it. And there is nothing original. We repeat. And to find out anything new requires tremendous inquiry, meditation. You don't just get it by just coming to a meeting for an hour and thinking one has to work tremendously hard. You do work very hard to earn a livelihood, go to the office every day. But this requires much more alertness, much more careful examination. And one doesn't have the energy, the patience, or the interest, because this is non-profit. It doesn't bring you any profit, financial or any other. But here is the question. I suffer physically, psychologically, and I can do something physically. Psychologically, I don't know what to do. And not knowing what to do, I escape. Or would somebody who will tell me what to do? Or I put up with it, getting more and more bitter, dull, stupid, full of animosity and all the rest. Without doing any of those things, can one look at that thing? Neither enjoying it nor pushing it away. Which means, can I look at it without any demand for it to overcome it, to justify it, control it, just to be observed? Given, how is it possible to do what I say for? Do it for a second, do it. As I said the other day, the word how is the most mischievous word. Because you want somebody else to tell you how to do it. So we suffer, not willing to suffer. There is suffering. And we're asking, can you look at it and remain with it? Be quiet. Neither accepting nor rejecting. Just be quiet. Huh? Please. Doesn't this require great meditation? No, please do it. If one does it, you will find that you derive from that very observation a great energy, don't you? You are not dissipating any energy. It is there.
When the question, such as what am I to do with myself, or however the question may be framed, there is always someone there, whether it's the advertising man on television or the Zen
Yes, yes,
master,
sir.
to
Tell him
give
what
him
to do.
a set of answers from somebody's thoughts. Because there is nothing in this culture that we're talking about that would prompt people to listen, really to come into relation with themselves in a tough-minded way.
This is young nation. A mixture of extraordinary, thoughts, feelings, and cultures. I should have thought it would produce something extraordinary,
Well, you don't know quite what will happen when this nation puts up to the external crisis. You never know.
Would you say she has reached immaturely, forced by circumstances, a pinnacle of maturity, and now declined?
This argument.
You would say, when you have really faced with a problem of war, of famine, of death, of poverty, and so on, you can't argumentatively discuss it. One has to deal, one has to put one's teeth into it. And you cannot artificially, intellectually have teeth to put to problems that are vital. So I hope when we ask questions and go into those questions, I hope they will not be merely intellectual or curious, but serious enough to investigate for ourselves what lies behind these questions and their import. What is the problem? Hunger. Hunger, lack of clothes, shelter, all that. Now, how is it going to be solved? Not by a particular nation. As you and I can't solve it, if we went in there, we couldn't solve it. No, sovereign government is going to solve it. No Indian government is going to solve it. They can pretend, and they do. So, what is preventing the solution of this problem is national. My flag, your flag, my country, your country. And the division that takes place geographically, which is exploited by the politician. That is the fact, one of the major factors of preventing the solution of starvation, of feeding the people. Now, science has means of giving food, clothes, and shelter practically to everyone. It's not being done because of you are a British, I'm an Indian or Russian. So it's a world problem, not individual or nationalistic.
How do you suppose that we'll be able to become these nationalistic figures?
First, one has to be free of it oneself. Wait. One has to be free of it oneself. Neither American nor Indian nor right. Then get up and talk, shout, do anything for the not for the little things, but for the major issues. Then perhaps you will sow some seed that take root. Now, if every human being, educated, cultured, who is really serious, wants to solve this problem, he will do something. like war. We have accepted war as the way of life. All man has throughout centuries. And to stop war, difference is concerned with the whole process of living as a human being. Then perhaps we'll be able to solve this question of war. Potentially, quite.
Society has solved the problem of food, clothing, and shelter. So once you solve those problems, what do you have to look? What else?
I don't quite understand what else. You mean what is beyond these three? Yeah. So what is man seeking, basically? He basically is seeking these three, because these are absolute necessities, whether California, India, Russia, anywhere. So beyond that, he says, after satisfying that, let's seek something else. Let's go after something. Is that the way to begin? Is it bread first and then the other, or the other first and bread after? I don't know if you... Yes. So, in getting bread, we get lost. We get superficial. We get caught in the trap of amusement and religiosity, all that. But if we were not seeking so much, if we were after something more than bread and butter, in the more included the bread and butter, then I think this problem would never arise. What we are trying in all these discussions and talks here is to see if we cannot radically bring about a transformation of the mind. Not accept things as they are, nor revolt. Revolt doesn't answer everything. But to understand it, to go into it, to examine it, give your heart and your mind and everything that you have to find out, the way of living differently. But that depends on you and not somebody else. Because in this, there is no teacher, pupil. There's no leader. There's no guru. There's no master, no savior. You yourself are the teacher and the pupil. You are the master. You are the guru. You are the leader. You are everything. And to understand is to transform what is. It's been what it is.
This has been Program 1 in a series of 8 programs presenting the original and challenging thought of Krishnamurti. During the past 4 decades, in his writings and talks in Europe, Asia, and America, Krishnamurti has continued to explore the real revolution, a radical change in ourselves. Subsequent programs will be concerned with love, death, fear, and the possibility of a fundamental change in consciousness. The next program in the series is titled Observing Ourselves.
Yes, we have 2 hands, Harshad Bhai and Dinesh ji. Yes, please, Harshad Bhai, unmute yourself.
Okay. Are you able to hear my voice?
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you, Dubey ji. Krishna ji is asking the kind of questions are very difficult for people to take that kind of challenge about the possible to bring about mutation radical revolution in the mind, because what we see in the world, that people have many problems in their daily life. Most people have to earn money for their basic necessities, and they are so much occupied with that only, to find a job and to have a security, physical security. And then people who have a physical security, they may have other problems, problem in the family, problem in the office. So the mind is full of many problems. So it requires a kind of a free mind to listen to what Krishnamurti is saying, and then not just think about what Krishnamurti is saying, but to look directly at one's own mind, what is happening, what he is trying to point out beyond the word, not discuss with other people, but see exactly how our mind is working. And this is very few people who are interested in looking at their own self, because generally our mind is interested in knowing about many things and many activities, many many hobbies like watching films, entertainment. So when people have time from their daily routine, then they watch films and football, and all this occupies the human mind. So only people who can be alone, be very silent, and can look inward, and looking inward without judging anything. And that is the basic teachings of Krishnamurti. And that looking tells us everything about our life, what is happening. And when we are able to see it clearly, non-verbally, then that seeing changes our quality of life, quality of the brain, and then we understand what Krishnamurti is saying without reading much. There is no need to keep on reading Krishnamurti. What we need is to look, sit quietly and look at our own mind, forgetting everything what Krishnamurti has said, or what Upanishad or Buddhism is saying, but curiosity, passion to look inward, which brings about many changes without trying to change. And so my question is, are people interested in looking inward without any motive, just a pure curiosity, and able to see non-verbally everything? So our mind is working day and night, but people who are interested, they can catch here and there some fragments of thinking and feeling. And then there are also silent periods too. And we become very alert, not only to what is happening outside around us in the environment, pollution and the fighting politics and all that, but also we begin to look at our own response, whether we are conditioned by nationality, by religion, by caste, by race, and so on. So all these questions, what Krishnamurti is asking, because he has a free mind, and he expects a lot from the listener, but very few people may be able to look at their own mind clearly. If once a person is able to do it, then there is no need, no more reading required, only looking, and that looking becomes the action. Okay, I have said enough. Thank you.
Thank you, Harshad. Yes, Dinesh.
Are you able to listen to me, sir?
Yes, yes.
The today's video seems to be again an assorted video, and it contains JK's general statements. Really, as we do not know, the video maker also doesn't know where are we going. Anyway, the theme is real revolution, and the essence is first priority of human is food, shelter, and cloth. And when it is over, then mind is to be addressed. There is crisis in consciousness, and human mind requires a radical transformation. If one goes for it, then he should have interest, energy, patience, and for this he requires extra sense of awareness and attention, act of listening, seeing, etc., etc. As Harshad sir has also pointed out. Now, to transform what is, one must be free of the word, the idea, and conclusion. Here it is very clear that JK is talking about thought. He has not given any method or how it is to be done, but from time to time he has given pointers. So I tried to link JK's pointers with various types of thoughts. According to me and my experience, when one starts observing thoughts, then he finds traffic of travel thoughts, like keeping unnecessary information, knowledge, gossiping, etc., etc. These are superficial thoughts, and these are because of ignorance, as one doesn't know that thought consumes energy. JK pointer here is as one understands the structure, function, effect, and right place of thought. JK's pointer here is as one understands the structure, function, effects, and right place of thought, then with maturity, these thoughts are reduced. This we have talked about the travel thoughts. Then second, mechanical thoughts. Example, a music or song repeats itself. Here, JK's pointer is these are because of inattention. JK's pointer here is these are because of inattention and because one is not through with it. If he attends that song properly, then it will not repeat. Third is suppressed or repressed thoughts because of past hurt, fear, memories of past suffering, etc. These are basically feelings, and as per JK, one has to remain with it without escape. This releases the energy of these thoughts. This also applies to past happy memories. Then daily routine method thoughts. To reduce this, one requires right thinking. JK's pointers are to reduce this, one requires right thinking and clarity of mind, so that he can operate on perception is action level. This also applies to the thoughts related to office work, job, planning, etc. of technical nature. Ultimately, mind has to be matured enough to operate on perception is action level as much as possible. Next type of thoughts arise because of reaction or response in relationship. Thoughts arise because of reactions and response in relationship. This requires maturity of mind and wisdom. JK's pointer are one should understand difference between sensitivity and sentimentality. What attachment does, how image interferes in relationship. This we have talked enough times. How the image is formed and how it interferes in the relationship. What is one's roles in the moment in relationship and how he is related in the matter. This is also important. How he is related in the matter. Next type of thoughts. Thoughts of unfinished business. Thoughts of unfinished business. These are thoughts which are because one has kept pending any issue. It may be technical or of psychological nature, related to intellect or feelings, emotions. Say any financial matter or liability issue or any hobby, etc. kept pending any unfulfilled desire, or any suppressed or repressed feeling, emotion related to these, etc., etc. These suppressed or repressed feelings also appears in dreams. To reduce these thoughts, one has to take decision about it, either complete the issue or close it. JK is given pointer here as ending of the thought. If we see what he has said about the ending of thought, we will find the solution here. Next, the thoughts related to becoming career, etc. Here, JK points out that there should be flowering in goodness and to promote natural tendencies and virtues. And last, the most important point, thoughts because of conditioning. It may be related to religion, nationality, general mass conditioning, family background, etc., etc. JK points out here that one has to go deep and understand the truth behind it. These conditionings, once he understands the truth behind this conditioning, he will be free from the conditionings. These are the broad classifications of thoughts, and working of these also covers the JK's pointer of self-knowing, because this also addresses individuality. In general, to reduce thoughts, apart from choiceless awareness, wisdom is required. With wisdom, there is a possibility of awakening of intelligence. We have talked enough about seeing, listening, etc., etc. But in my views, the said working is also required to quiet the mind, which is prerequisite for radical revolution. Right now, I want to submit this much only. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Durgaji, please go ahead.
Yes, sir. Yeah, good evening, everybody. Yes. Yes. Dinesh ji, you have really brought a very nice summary. Oh my goodness, you have written an entire thesis on it. I think you should present one Sunday program itself, it looks. Yeah, there's a very good coverage of whole issues. Actually, I also listened to this video twice or thrice. I also brought out some salient points concerning the, the highlight. Actually, you brought the issues in essence all together. You just gone beyond the video and your brought essence of the kind of essence. But I just wrote down few points, which I thought we should discuss as per today's video. And he says about what is and the transformation of what is. Actually, we have some problems of understanding what is itself. Remaining is what is itself is a problem for us. We don't know what does he mean by what is. So, and here he says about the transformation of what is. And as per my understanding, what is more of any state which we are in. The sorrow, the misery, the problems, the confusion of our day-to-day lives. Maybe regarding related to our personal relationships or, some outside factors or some whatever it is. So whatever the state we are in, that is what is for us. There is nothing else, nothing other than that. That's what my understanding is. And he say, and moreover, it is not the pleasant and happy memories and thoughts. They won't cause any problem to us. People live happily day after day, year after year, without bothering, unless and until some sorrow, some kind of misery strikes them. That makes them sit and ponder and reflect and worry. First time they open their eyes and they start seeing. So I feel Krishnaji is talking more about those states. So this is maybe kind of a correction I would like to give to add to your thesis. I feel he's not talking so much about the irrelevant thoughts, the thoughts of happy thoughts, happy memories. I don't think he's saying that you remain in a kind of a completely empty state of mind. I feel he's not talking about individual consciousness at all. I feel his problems are much more broader. He's thinking his talks address about the totality of consciousness. His talks address about the major problems of humanity. It's not one person attaining some kind of a, some kind of a state. Maybe our individual, our Vedanta and Upanishads and all, they may point out towards that. But if we look at Krishna's teachings, he addresses the totality of human consciousness, entire problems, the food, the hunger. It's not about you satisfying your hunger. There are hundreds and thousands of people who go hungry every day in your own locality, in your own country. And there are so many, he's addressing that. Till the time we are not even, we don't open up our eyes to that, to see the broader picture which he is trying to bring to us, I think we may miss out the point. He's not talking about individual personal salvation. Correct me if I'm wrong. It is just we are openly and freely, in a friendly way, we are discussing all these things. So I feel that's my understanding is. So his attempt is that bring us into the focus. He says, if all educated people, if you stand up and raise and talk and shout, something will happen. There won't be so many people who go hungry every day. So that's part of the video. He says we listen, we don't act in our life. You do whatever it is, but make some noise. And if there are 100 people together, they make noise, issues change. The world won't remain the same the way it is. So I feel he's trying to, awaken that kind of a consciousness in us, that kind of a spirit in us, So I think he doesn't talk about any old literature, old philosophy, nothing. The present day situation, very much present day situation. What we see all around us, what our present day lives, which are full of problems, confusions, conflicts in everyday life. And he says, and I think the underlying point is remain quiet with it. Do we have those kind of quietness in us? When we face the problem, if we are in a sorrow, you remain with it. Be with it. Maybe because our mind doesn't have that much potential to remain with it. We want to run away. We want to go helter-skelter. If men are there, they resort to all other things, maybe alcohol, this and that. We want to run away. We don't know how to remain with this because our potential is so less. So he says, remain with it. Be quiet with it. And if you know how it is to remain quiet with this, then maybe that quietness, that changes the what is for you. Maybe some solution will come, and maybe some clarity may come through somebody else. And once you know how to remain quiet in a problematic situation, in your misery, in your sorrow, then maybe that state starts continuing. But we people, we think, how to get revolution, how to get mutation, our mind makes so much, plays havoc with us. We want all that kinds of, gratifications. So maybe I think he's trying to address that. You begin very slowly, start wherever you are, and observe your life, observe your conditions, observe your situations, just live with this. So nowhere he says about, of course, for our own information, we may read other books, we may read other literature, but nowhere Krishnaji speaks about them because the problems are present. They're much challenging, much demanding. So as maybe a bit of awareness level individuals, awakened individuals, if we don't make noise, if we don't know how to raise voice for cause, so how is it going to happen? So I feel that is the underlying summary which he is trying to bring out, sir. That's all for the timing. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, Pradeep ji.
Yes. Good evening, everyone. For me, seeing what is not a special particular scenario. It is always present to all of us in our day-to-day living. In the present video, what do we see? Do we see the passion and surge of energy in and around JK while talking about transformation? The aged body, he must be around more than 60. He must be in 60s. You see, the aged body, especially eyes are bubbling with energy. You see, this energy and movement can energize all of us, or even at least the listener, you see the chuckle in his eyes, almost the hypnotized audience all around, rapidly and trying to listen to what he is talking about. Now, the special thing is seeing what is. Now, this requires freedom. Harshad ji always talks about that freedom in the beginning. You see? Just a minute, just a little disturbance in me. Anyway, so this requires freedom. Freedom is in the beginning, he always says, and that's a fact. But freedom from what? Freedom from self. It's all manifestation of self, which means a highly loaded conditioned self that each one of us carry. What makes me see myself totally from moment to moment? Of course, awareness, not consciousness. Awareness. He uses specifically this word here and there, awareness. Consciousness is loaded. When I'm aware of myself attentively, I can see how so-called the external world has entered me and occupied the space in my mind, which acts as a, you see, as a multicolored filter in me. JK talks about the transformation of what is, a mutation in what is, to overcome the crisis of consciousness. But alas, this crisis is not, it is present in only very few people. This crisis, most of the people are struggling with the crisis of those three things he was talking about: food, clothing, and shelter. But these, although look very simply three, these three have become 3,003 million presently. All matching, all the different colors of these three. So this is not just three. All the rich people, all the affluent, the whole society is flooded with these three only, mostly in various different forms. Now, the question is, why? Why violence has survived and flourished in our society and in ourselves in various shades? Either, what could be the reason? Either we have become numb and indifferent, or used to it, that it has lost its impact on us, or we are enjoying it like a sweet pain. For most of us, what is beyond three, food, clothing, and shelter, that I have already talked about, that the three have become 3,003 million. Actually, moot point is whether we can be attentive right now, when I'm talking, why I'm talking, what I am indicating, what I am sharing, trying to share, and what do I see all around in a panoramic way, not specifically. Durga ji was talking about that he's not talking about individual. Of course, he's talking to an individual, that is me. He's talking to an individual, that is me. But this individual is also collective in a way. This individual is, you are the world, but my world may be very limited. That's all. That's all. But I am both individual as well as collective. That's why I can understand what beyond individuality is talking about. So these are certain points, and seeing, of course, remains the most important thing. Seeing tells you everything, provided we are free from self in all its manifestations. Thank you very much for giving me enough time. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Pradeep. Yes, Harshad.
Yes. Are you able to hear my voice?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. when we are occupied with many things, thoughts, activities, we cannot see the whole. Even to look at the whole planet, we have to go very, very far from the earth in a space vehicle, and then we see the whole planet blue and green, so beautiful. And some astronauts have seen it. And then at that time we wonder, 7 billion people living in a small planet, and why they are fighting in the name of their country or religion. It may seem very stupid if we can really go very, very far from the earth and look at the whole planet. Similarly, when we can go very, very deep within ourselves, our mind, and we come to that state of silence, silent looking, then also such a question come, why we create so many problems? Human beings, why they are fighting in the name of religion or nationality or caste and all that. So the real problem is that we are not very silent and clear to see everything. Once that happens, that clarity and silence, then we stop creating problems. We can see the problem creating machinery can be seen in silence. So sometimes I say that if you are in an empty room and if somebody enters through the door and if your eyes are open, you see that somebody has entered. So similarly, that state of being aware, alert to whatever is happening within us, thoughts and feelings, even while walking on a street outside, not just being in a room and closing eyes and trying to meditate, not that way, but with the eyes open, the mind silent, and looking at everything, whatever the things outside, as well as what is happening within. And that is what Krishnaji is talking about. So it is not a meditation in a room quietly, but living with that alertness so that we can see the problem the moment something arises disturbing, we can see it, and that seeing resolves the problem. So this what interests me very much, not to accumulate, not to analyze different kinds of thoughts, what Dineshji was talking about. That is for the scholarly people or psychologists, professors. They can analyze different kinds of thoughts. But what is required is seeing without analyzing. And that is our difficulty, I feel. And that's why Krishnaji says, analysis is paralysis. So only thing is, we can look at whatever is happening without naming it and just looking. That is a marvelous state, I feel. Okay, I have finished.
Thank you, Harshad. Yes, Mr. Rajendran.
Thank you, Dubey. Good evening to all our friends here. Just I want to share something that has come up in my mind. Just I want to share. It may not be even relevant to what Krishnaji was talking today, but this is what I understand from Krishnaji's after listening to Krishnaji in some other occasions. So, for the sake of ease of understanding our discussion, let us divide this what is into two things. That is in the physical world, that is in the world of reality to make a livelihood. That is the physical world. In another is psychological world. There is actually, there may not be a sharp distinction between these two. These two are overlapping in most of the occasions. But for the ease of discussion, let us have this. Let us divide these things so that we can have for ease of discussion. Okay. So in the physical world, I can fight against what is and create the opposite, and I can make efforts to achieve it. Suppose if I am poor or illiterate, so I can create the opposite. I want to be literate. I want to be rich. I can make a lot of efforts, and I can rise to the level of the opposite. I can reach by making continuous efforts. I can reach that opposite. Suppose in my room, in my house, lot of things are stuffed in the yes, a lot of things are stuffed, unnecessary things are stuffed. I gathered all these years. If I want to remove all this, no, I want to be clean, I want to be tidy. If I want, if I make an effort, I create, oh, my house should be tidy. It should not be stuffed with unnecessary, unwanted things. So I can make a trash bag. I can act. I can physically. I need the assistance of my wife or children also. I can dump all those things and I can throw it away. So, for example, this in the physical world, this type of we can create the opposite and take action and efforts to achieve the opposite. But in the psychological world, is there any action is possible? For that, see, in the inner regions of in the fathom of my mind also, conscious and unconscious also, a lot of junk is gathered there. Okay, can I make a trash bag and I ask my wife and children to assist him to throw away, take away all those unwanted things and throw it away? No, nothing. Even that the effort is the thought. The effort is the reason for all that accumulation. Then what I can do? I cannot do anything. Nothing I can do. So in the psychological field, there is no action, there is no effort. Do nothing and stay with what is. And Krishnaji was telling, so when you stay with what is, some miracle happens, some unexplained thing happens, and the what is undergoes change like that. So in the psychology field, we are always, as we are used to do in the physical field of acting something, we replicate the same thing in the psychological field also. That's why we are struggling and wasting our energy. So is it any action is possible at all in the psychological field? Because that action effort is nothing but the observer, the mind, the thought, the self. So how the self can act against the self? So nothing, no action is possible. No, that all actions in the psychological field is futile, and we are caught in that web. So what I want to share is that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Adnan. Yes, Dinesh ji.
Harshad, I would like to point out that why I have done this analysis. Because first, mind for a beginner, mind has to be clear when he starts observing what he has to observe.
There's some problem with your audio, Dinesh ji. We can't hear you.
Are you getting my voice?
Yes, we heard you right now. Yes.
There is problem with my.
No, we can hear you now. We can hear you. Yes.
You can hear me?
Yes.
Sir, why I have done this bifurcation? Because one has to understand what he has to observe. And the second portion, the pointers of JK, they are not only intellectual at the intellectual level. They are the real pointers to solve the problem of individual. And another thing, basically, can a person look silently when he is having the insecurity issue? Because the main problem is insecurity. Food, he has to first earn his bread and butter, clothes, shelter, problem he has to solve. Can he look silently? Harshad sir, please.
Before Harshad Bhai says, let me say something, Dinesh ji. Uh, I think it's important because she has given tremendous importance to seeing. And I'm not saying that if I have problem for my meal, where it's going to come from next evening or next morning, then looking at myself is certainly not possible. But when I have my meal and I want to know myself, can I look? The biggest impediment is the self, which Vermaji has mentioned, and I think somebody else also mentioned. Rajendran ji mentioned about self. But in moments where the self becomes little dormant or is not creating problems in seeing, there will be tremendous change in what is. So for this, you don't have to have any prerequisite that you must understand everything. Sir, to know yourself, you don't understand anything. You have to understand yourself only, nothing else. And you have to start from where it is. If it is not happening, can I see that? I'm not able to concentrate. Something else comes in. That's okay. Krishna doesn't say that, okay, you start seeing it. I mean, he doesn't behave. I mean, he discusses about a process and all that. Like in tradition, there are certain qualifications for a student to learn Vedanta. Krishna doesn't talk about that. But there must be humility, there must be truthfulness, acceptance, all that. And then I begin just sitting quietly in a room and watching my thoughts. Not that the thought must go, then only I can watch. Can I watch what is happening? Let's begin at that. Yes, Harshad Bhai can say something and then we'll go to Vermaji.
Yes, Dinesh ji talked about insecurity. Yes, when we are physically insecure, we have no money, we have no food, then we cannot see. Our mind will be thinking about only that what we want, food, clothes, and shelter. But I think most people in the world, many, they have food, clothes, and shelter, but they want more of it. And when they have even more of it, they want more pleasures and more doing many activities, but not looking inward. And there is a psychological insecurity in all human beings because the mind doesn't want to die. Silence means death of the self. And that is very frightening. And that's why even when it is not necessary, our mind keeps on chattering, want to do something, want to think something, want to study something, and pick up a book or a conversation or a dialogue. So that psychological insecurity, it keeps our mind chattering. But when we become very curious to just look at that chattering without trying to stop it, without saying that I want to be quiet, but just looking, in that the mind becomes silent in that curiosity to look at whatever is happening. Because Dinesh ji says what we have to observe, anything which is coming, whether good or bad or anything, something is coming in the mind and we don't know. It is really mystery because suddenly some song may come in our mind. We don't know what created that memory, why that memory of that particular song came to my mind at this given moment. Because I know many songs. So this thinking, feeling is a mystery. And when we are interested in just looking at it, not trying to find any solution for it, then everything becomes very interesting. And we wonder from where these thoughts are coming, because scientists don't know. We don't know where the memories are stored. Maybe it is everywhere, just like electromagnetic waves are everywhere in space. All we need is a receiver, radio or television, and we can collect those waves. Similarly, this memory is probably in space, and in the moment of unawareness, something comes in, but when we become aware, then that will stop. But again, when we become unaware, something else will come. So this looking is very interesting for people who are just interested in looking, not trying to be free, then freedom also comes. It may not be a permanent freedom. It may come sometime when you begin to see everything in a different way. Okay, I have said enough. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes,
Sir.
Pradeep ji.
Little about Rajendran ji was talking about being with what is, that's right. So being with what is doesn't mean accepting what is. You see, either you, if I, as me, suppose I look into myself, what is this me, being with me, then if I am not in a witness phase, only witness phase can tell me how conditioned I am. Then being the so-called external world, you see war and all that he was talking about. So that also depends on the inner. My inner world looks at so-called external. The division is from inside to outside. Again, outside back, like a wave comes back to me. So it doesn't mean it is, he's talking about transformation of what is. If we accept what is external or internal as it is, so internally I am conditioned, externally full of violence, all sorts of miseries around, all sorts of problems all around. So there is no question, unless until I can see it very deeply with a compassionate mind and my resources and all that I can do, or I can do means automatically things will happen through me. I will not do it. So he is invariably asking this question, what do you do? What do you do it? Do it, do it. He's again and again knocking that point beautifully. So transformation is only possible when suffering, so-called suffering of so-called others becomes yours. Then you are most attentive. What is it troubling me? So this is what is automatically, if I am sensitive enough, compassionate enough, passionate enough, the entire energy is available to see what is, even in my daily life, things get resolved. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Arun sir. I think even when we are not in sorrow or when we are not suffering, can we see ourselves when we are happy? Can we watch ourselves? Perhaps that may help, because suffering forces you to look at yourself. There's no denying this. But even when we are happy, can we watch our thoughts? That is what he's inviting us to do. Yes, Durga ji, please go ahead.
Very interesting points, in fact, yeah. Like, Pradeep ji has brought a lot of passion and compassion to the forum, yeah. And when you see so much of passion and compassion in Krishna ji, and if you get connected with that, I feel that itself is maybe, some connection is formed. Rather than just listening to like some random, these are my views. It's not to praise or anybody out of the way or deprecate anybody. I'm just in the habit of saying things like that. So yeah, unless and until we feel the passion and the compassion of Krishna ji, I think we may miss out the point. Yeah, that's very important. And two more points I would like to bring here, sir, regarding this video. He says point blank, there is no hope and faith in the, he says, though it may sound very brutally, but what do you have to say about it? Can we have our existence without having any hope and without having any faith in our lives? I think this is a very crucial question we may have to ask us. This is why I would like to bring here. And secondly is towards the end of the video, he says in general about, I think California, US, he says he refers to she, maybe referring to the country as such, America, young country. And he says, are there any chances of evolving a new state of being? I think all his concern is always has been that. So, and then he says, and I think it's a good pointer for all of us also. And when he's referring to she as the country, she has reached the pinnacle, you know, and without really going through the entire process of suffering. So maybe that's a pointer for us also. So we may not be, you know, great hurry, you know, that I have heard something and something may happen. So he says, if you reach the pinnacle without really going through the entire process, maturity won't come. Maybe I feel that's a pointer for everybody also, sir. So pinnacle, and now she started declining. So, and when you see a composite videos like this, bits and pieces, there also you get some hints. So I feel I should bring to the notice of our participants this point. That's all I have to say, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Durga. Thank you. I think you have rightly said, you know, this was a period when America had come out of the Second World War and the economy was booming, and so was the hippie culture. People were so affluent that they didn't know what to do with their money. So those 60s, late 60s, Christie was addressing that kind of audience also. This is just I wanted to mention. Yes, Mr. Rama Rao.
Yes, sir. This is for Mr. Harshad. When he was talking, he mentioned about psychological insecurity. So I see clearly that there is no psychological security at all. It is only insecurity is there. If we feel any psychological secure, it is nothing but an illusion. Can I get some the thought on this by Arshad ji?
Yes, why not?
Oh.
Yes, Harshad, please.
Yes, what I mean, insecurity in psychological sense, it means the fear of being alone and silent. Because we always drive ourselves to do something. If we don't do anything, we feel very restless. And so we try to escape from looking at what is. And there is no question of accepting what is or rejecting what is, but just seeing it. And that also that seeing without motivation, not that we want to bring about some change, and that is why we are looking. So Krishnaji, when he said, just be quiet and do it, and before that he said, looking without motivation. So people who are deeply interested in learning about their own inner world, they will find it very fascinating to just look, because there is so much buried within us, and from the unconscious something coming up, and we can watch it just like a bubble coming from the bottom of a lake and coming on the surface and bursting. So similarly, it is a kind of watching a film of what is happening within us. And when we are interested in watching this film, many changes begin to happen in the way we live our life. But I find that human beings are interested in watching films made by other human beings, and mostly those are very violent films, and they don't mind watching those films. They find it very interesting. But I find it very interesting to just look at the stars or the flowers or what is happening inside. And so one can see everything what is happening within us. And that is a kind of a freedom to look without motivation, without accepting or rejecting. Okay, I have said enough. Thank you.
Thank you, Harshad. Yes, Arunji.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. So actually, I mean, beyond this talk, what actually came into my mind was like, I mean, when you have also mentioned many times in our talks also, let's begin, you know, but we have listened to it so many times. So I just felt like sometimes like we should, generally in normal world, we have this different stages, like you'll be a beginner, then intermediate, then advanced and all that. But in the psychological field, I think it is always that we are a beginner. By that, I mean, like, if you look at it, like, in Krishna ji's talk also, we have listened many times. I've listened. I'm talking about my personal experience. I've listened many times to the video also, not the entire video, but some part of it. Then I just feel like I used to feel before that I used to feel very frustrated because I used to feel I'm failing somewhere. That is why I'm not able to begin anything at all. Then after certain time, I realized that the beginning has already started. Like, it's just that only if you have some particular goal in front of us, right, where to reach and all. The way Krishna ji is saying, if you want to see that, then we always would have a false notion within us saying that we have never begun at all. But in a layman's term, I think we have begun somewhere. That is what I felt. Thank you.
Thank you, Arunji. I think you very rightly said, one should begin without expecting a result. That is the only thing in our hand, but we should be serious. We should be truthful in doing it. That's all.
Correct. Yeah.
It's almost time, and I don't have any raised hands, so we can as well close now. Sunday talk, we are aware, 11 o'clock, we'll have Dr. Roshan Dalal next Sunday. And so if you're free, please do join. With these words, we'll close now. Thank you. Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.